Trump Tower. The gold-plated skyscraper that thinks it's the main character of Manhattan. From fake floor numbers to priceless art smashed for efficiency. From cheap labor lawsuits to lobby protests and even a guy scaling it like a knockoff Spider-Man, this building has been in more scandals than a reality TV reunion special. Buckle up, because we're about to dive into everything wrong with Trump Tower. Sorry to interrupt, but even Trump's hairpiece subscribed by accident. What's your excuse? Thanks. The birth of a tower? The birth of Trump Tower. Because what Fifth Avenue really needed in 1983 was a 58-story gold-plated shrine to one man's ego, right? Built by the Trump Organization, also known as the Donald himself and a small army of lawyers, this glassy monument replaced the Bonwit Teller department store. Because who needs historic Art Deco when you can have a mall with an indoor waterfall? Trump pitched it as the ultimate luxury destination. Part condos, part offices, part temple to capitalism, and apparently decided Manhattan didn't have enough mirrored surfaces to reflect his own grin. The goal? Mix high-end living, luxury retail, and a place where Trump could conveniently ride an escalator into history 30-something years later. It opened with enough fanfare to make Studio 54 jealous and quickly became one of New York's most famous tourist attractions, mostly because it's hard to miss a building that screams, "Notice me!" from 3 blocks away. Fake floors, real ego? Did you know that Trump Tower is officially 58 stories tall, but Donald decided to skip floor numbers 6 through 13? Because who needs math when you've got marketing? Magically, 58 floors became 68, which is like me telling people I'm 6'4" because I stand on tiptoes. It's the real estate equivalent of adding extra zeros to your dating profile. This wasn't just a little white lie. It was genius branding. Buyers thought they were living higher up in the clouds when in reality they were basically still in midtown traffic fumes. And the best part? It worked. People paid millions for the illusion of being 10 floors closer to heaven. If you ever wondered how Trump got good at inflating numbers later in life, look no further than this little math-defying stunt. Welcome to Trump Tower, where the floors, and the truth, go missing. Art Deco Demolition Derby. Picture this. You promised the Metropolitan Museum of Art some gorgeous 1929 Art Deco bas-reliefs from the Bonwit Teller building. The Met is thrilled. Historians cheer. And then, you smash them to rubble with a jackhammer. That's right, during construction, those priceless limestone sculptures and a huge ornate grillwork were destroyed. Also, construction could move faster. The excuse? They weren't that valuable. Translation: oops, we crushed history, but hey, we saved a few bucks. Preservationists were furious. The Met called it a tragic loss, and Trump basically shrugged it off, saying the pieces weren't up to his standards. Nothing says classy like bulldozing culture because it clashes with your vision of gold elevators and a waterfall in the lobby. The whole fiasco turned what could have been a goodwill PR move into an early sign that Trump Tower would be less about honoring the past and more about shouting its own name into the future. Cheap labor, big savings. Here's a plot twist straight out of a mob movie. The shiny luxury tower was allegedly built using undocumented Polish laborers who were paid shockingly low wages and worked crazy hours without proper hard hats. Lawsuits later revealed these guys were doing dangerous demo work for peanuts, sometimes sleeping at the construction site, and Trump allegedly knew about it. When they asked for fair pay, it turned into a years-long legal battle that only wrapped up in the 1990s with a secret settlement. It's the kind of behind-the-scenes story that makes you look up at the tower and wonder whose backs those mirrored panels were actually built on. The irony? Trump's brand is all about only the best. But apparently, the best included cheap, overworked, underpaid labor as long as the marble floors got installed on time. Turns out the glitziest part of Trump Tower isn't the atrium. It's the unpaid overtime buried under the foundation. Diversity not included. Nothing screams New York City like, well, diversity. unless you were standing at the Trump Tower construction site in the early 80s, where protests broke out over the lack of minority hiring. Community activists called out the developers for barely employing Black or Latino construction workers in one of the most diverse cities in the world. The picket lines got attention, but the hiring practices didn't really change much, leading critics to accuse the project of being an exclusive club right from the ground up. For a building that now sells itself as a must-see tourist destination, its origin story isn't exactly a melting pot moment. Instead of reflecting the city's character, it reflected a hiring process that seemed allergic to representation. And if you think the building's glass facade is transparent, the hiring process back then sure wasn't. Unless you count being able to see right through the excuses. Tax break tango? Imagine building a luxury tower on Fifth Avenue and then asking, hey, shouldn't this basically be tax-free? That's exactly what Trump did. He fought with New York City over whether Trump Tower deserved special tax exemptions, usually meant to encourage development, even suing when they said no. Eventually, he snagged millions in tax breaks, because apparently billionaires need a little help to get by. The kicker? Those breaks meant less money for city services, while a skyscraper full of luxury condos and Gucci stores got cheaper to operate. It was the kind of move that had regular New Yorkers thinking, wait, why am I paying full price for a studio apartment with a view of a brick wall, while Trump Tower gets a discount? It set the tone early on. Trump Tower isn't just a building, it's a masterclass in working the system. So the gold-plated elevators go up while your tax dollars go down. Atrium of broken promises? Here's a fun fact: that shiny Trump Tower atrium you see on Instagram, it's technically a publicly accessible space, a deal struck so Trump could build taller. But for years, critics said it was more like a velvet-roped VIP area than a public plaza. Benches mysteriously vanished, kiosks selling Trump merch popped up, and reporters found that access wasn't always as open as it was supposed to be. It's the urban planning equivalent of saying, sure, come to my party, and then locking the door. City inspectors have had to step in multiple times to make sure the tower actually followed the rules, which is hilarious when you think about it. New York literally had to remind Trump Tower that public space means the public can use it. So next time you sip a latte in that atrium, know that you're not just in a mall. You're in a years-long zoning argument with escalators. Mall of Empty Dreams. Remember when the Trump Tower atrium was supposed to be the most glamorous shopping experience in New York? Fast forward to today, and it's looking a little echoey. Over the years, high-end stores like Gucci and Niketown bailed, leaving behind empty glass storefronts that make it feel like the world's fanciest ghost mall. By the late 2010s, reporters were pointing out that much of the retail space was empty or replaced with sad touristy stands selling MAGA hats. The luxury vibe kind of falls apart when half the escalators lead to closed shops, and the main feature is a souvenir kiosk. It's the real estate equivalent of buying a Ferrari and using it as a planter. What was supposed to be a temple of opulence now feels more like a monument to the retail apocalypse. A place where you go to hear your footsteps echo, contemplate capitalism, and maybe grab a Trump-branded mug. Penthouse of make-believe. Only Donald Trump could turn square footage into a punchline. For years, Trump bragged that his gold-plated penthouse in Trump Tower was nearly 30,000 square feet, which would have made it one of the largest apartments in the city. Problem is, property documents later showed it was actually closer to 11,000. That little oops became a key example in lawsuits accusing him of inflating asset values to look richer on paper. Prosecutors said this wasn't just exaggeration. It was hundreds of millions in fake value. The idea that someone could accidentally add 19,000 square feet to their living space is comedy gold. Oh, sorry, I didn't notice those 3 imaginary floors over the living room. It's like telling your landlord your studio is actually a mansion because you have a nice rug. Trump's penthouse may still be massive and gaudy, but thanks to those numbers, it now lives rent-free in the fraud case files too. Sprinklers, optional. Trump Tower is many things, but apparently not a fan of sprinklers. In 2018, a fire broke out on the 50th floor, tragically killing a resident and injuring firefighters. People were shocked to learn the residential floors had no sprinklers, and that Trump had personally lobbied against a 1999 city law that would have required them. His reasoning back then? Too expensive. So yes, the building famous for its gold toilets cut corners on literal life-saving equipment. The image of firefighters battling flames in a skyscraper with no sprinklers felt like a dark metaphor for the entire Trump brand. A flashy exterior covering dangerously outdated systems. The fire became a major news story and sparked renewed debate about safety codes in older luxury buildings. It's a reminder that for all its marble floors and waterfalls, Trump Tower can't hide the fact that its fire safety plan was basically cross your fingers. Fortress 5th Avenue. Want to see how fast Midtown traffic can turn into a nightmare? Just elect a president who lives on 5th Avenue. After Trump's 2016 victory, security around Trump Tower went into overdrive. Streets were closed, barricades went up, and suddenly New Yorkers had to budget an extra 20 minutes to cross the street. The NYPD reported spending millions per month just protecting the building, and local businesses complained that foot traffic plummeted. Protests outside became a regular feature, turning the area into a mix of political rally, media circus, and gridlock generator. The whole ordeal showed what happens when your commander-in-chief's primary residence doubles as a tourist attraction. Chaos, sirens, and way too many news vans. Even the Secret Service had to rent office space inside the tower, making this the world's most expensive roommate situation. Trump Tower went from luxury landmark to lockdown fortress faster than you can say motorcade. Campaign HQ and gift shop. If you thought campaign headquarters were boring office parks, think again. Trump Tower's atrium turned into a hybrid political nerve center, press stage, and glorified gift shop during the 2016 campaign. Visitors could buy hats, shirts, even wine with Trump's name on it, all while standing under a giant atrium waterfall. It blurred the lines between business, politics, and QVC, prompting watchdog groups to raise eyebrows about whether a public space was being turned into a campaign rally venue. Press conferences in the lobby became iconic, especially that escalator entrance moment that kicked off the campaign. The whole thing felt like a reality show set that happened to have a Gucci store next door. Love him or hate him, Trump managed to turn an ordinary building lobby into one of the most televised political stages ever, and probably the only one where you could grab a latte mid-speech. Fact check optional. Trump Tower isn't just a skyscraper, it's also a masterclass in creative writing. Promotional materials have been accused of stretching the truth about the building's features, size, and overall prestige. Reports show Trump would describe the building in grander terms than what the numbers supported, whether that meant inflating square footage, exaggerating luxury features, or overselling how exclusive the place really was. It's basically real estate marketing on steroids. In financial statements, those embellishments often turned into valuations that were way higher than independent appraisals, which is convenient if you're trying to impress banks. Critics argue it's part of a long-running pattern. Make the tower sound taller, shinier, and richer than it really is. To be fair, every building gets hyped by its developer, but few manage to turn a sales brochure into a work of fantasy fiction. Think of it as the skyscraper equivalent of a very heavy Instagram filter. Fountain of Sadness. Remember when the Trump Tower atrium was supposed to be an opulent wonderland with a cascading waterfall, sparkling escalators, and bustling shops? Fast forward a few decades, and the vibe is less luxury destination and more abandoned food court. Reporters have noted entire escalators shut down for long periods, shops standing empty, and the waterfall, once a centerpiece, sometimes turned off completely. The place that once promised nonstop glamour now occasionally looks like it's in power-saving mode. The decline in maintenance has become its own talking point, with critics joking that the gold-plated aesthetic doesn't shine quite as bright when half the lights are burned out. It's almost poetic. The building that symbolized peak 80s excess slowly turning into a time capsule of fading opulence. Visiting today can feel less like stepping into a luxury landmark and more like stumbling into a billionaire's very fancy storage unit. Who really owns this place? You'd think Donald Trump would own Trump Tower outright, right? Well, not so fast. Over the years, filings have shown that mortgages, financing arrangements, and equity stakes have shifted around so much it's like playing a very expensive game of musical chairs. Some reports indicate Trump's actual equity in the tower has shrunk over time as he refinanced or brought in partners. That means the guy whose name is literally on the building might not be as financially tied to it as people think. It's the kind of plot twist you'd expect in a prestige drama. The hero of the story doesn't actually own the castle. It also adds an extra layer of drama to any legal fight, because what happens if one of the lenders decides they want their piece back? Trump Tower might look like a monument to stability, but its ownership history is basically a financial soap opera. Neighbors from a crime show. Trump Tower might be a luxury address, but some of its residents have made headlines for all the wrong reasons. Over the years, the building has housed everyone from accused mob associates to members of a Russian-American crime ring that allegedly used the condos to launder millions. It's the kind of resident list that makes you imagine the lobby as a potential crime drama set. Law and Order, Fifth Avenue. Critics have pointed out that the tower's use of anonymous LLCs for ownership makes it easier for shady buyers to move money around without much scrutiny. The result? A building that's both glamorous and just a little bit sketchy, like a nightclub with a velvet rope and a secret back room. For a tower marketed as the ultimate status symbol, its guest list sometimes reads more like a federal indictment waiting to happen. The big fraud case. Nothing says everything wrong with like a state attorney general suing you for fraud. In 2022, New York AG Letitia James filed a blockbuster lawsuit alleging that Trump and the Trump Organization spent years inflating the value of assets, including Trump Tower, to secure better loans and insurance deals. According to the suit, the building's value was sometimes exaggerated by hundreds of millions of dollars, turning it into Exhibit A in a case about business deception. Trump, of course, denied any wrongdoing and called it a witch hunt, but the lawsuit went forward and became one of the most closely watched cases of his career. The irony? The tower that was built as a monument to financial success is now a centerpiece in a legal drama about financial misrepresentation. It's like finding out the textbook on honesty was written by a professional poker bluff artist. Pay up or hand over the keys. As if the fraud case wasn't enough drama, a judge later ordered Trump to cough up $354.8 million in disgorgement, basically giving back the money prosecutors say he gained through those inflated valuations. Suddenly, headlines started asking whether Trump might have to sell off properties, including Trump Tower, to pay the massive penalty. The idea of the gold-plated tower being seized or sold to settle a court order is the kind of plot twist you'd expect in a season finale. Trump's lawyers are appealing, but the possibility hangs in the air like a real estate cliffhanger. Could the tower that symbolizes Trump's empire actually slip out of his hands? Whether or not it happens, the spectacle has already turned Trump Tower from a simple building into a legal chess piece, making every tourist selfie in the lobby feel like it's being taken on contested ground. Spider-Man audition. In August 2016, a man armed with suction cups decided the best way to get Donald Trump's attention was to literally scale the side of Trump Tower. Yes, Spider-Man cosplay went real world as stunned crowds gathered below and NYPD scrambled to figure out how to stop him before he plummeted onto Fifth Avenue. Police eventually broke through a window and yanked him inside on the 21st floor, turning the whole thing into a viral spectacle. The climber said it was a stunt to score a meeting with Trump, because apparently booking an appointment like a normal person wasn't dramatic enough. The event exposed just how climbable the shiny glass facade really is, which is not a comforting thought for a building that doubles as a political nerve center. The image of a man slowly crawling up Trump Tower like a bug on a windshield became instant internet gold and a headache for building security. Mystery Buyers Club. One of Trump Tower's most interesting features isn't the gold atrium. It's the list of people who technically own parts of it. Many condos are purchased through LLCs, or shell companies, making the real owners hard to trace. Journalists have found that some of these buyers have links to offshore tax havens, questionable business dealings, or even foreign oligarchs. It's like the building is playing its own game of Guess Who, where every faceflip reveals another mystery millionaire. Transparency advocates argue that this makes Trump Tower a prime case study in how luxury real estate can be used to park money out of sight. It's a setup that keeps investigators busy and conspiracy theorists entertained. For a building that loves being in the spotlight, its resident roster remains one of the most shadowy parts of its story, a luxury address with a side of cloak and dagger intrigue. Designer bag drama. In 2025, Trump Tower made headlines again when a tenant claimed the landlord took her $7,000 Hermes bag, along with other belongings, after she was evicted for allegedly falling behind on rent. The lawsuit turned into a splashy tabloid story because nothing says Manhattan drama like a fight over designer handbags in a gold-plated skyscraper. The tenant says she was locked out and her luxury goods were taken unlawfully, while management argues they were just following the rules. Whether you side with the tenant or the tower, the story felt like peak Trump Tower energy. Rich people arguing about expensive stuff in one of the most famous addresses in the world. The case is still winding through the courts, but it's a reminder that even in the home of billionaires, no one is immune to a classic landlord-tenant showdown. Only this one comes with better lighting and a security detail. Lobby. Sit-in special. If Trump Tower's atrium could talk, it would probably say, "Not again." The building has become a magnet for protests of all stripes, from anti-Trump marches to climate activists staging sit-ins. Most recently, demonstrators occupied the lobby to protest the detention of a student activist, turning the space into a mix of chanting, banners, and very confused tourists trying to buy coffee. Police eventually cleared them out, but not before social media turned it into trending content. The irony? This is technically a public space, so protesters have legal leverage to be there, which makes every confrontation a made-for-TV drama. The atrium has gone from being a temple of luxury shopping to an impromptu town square where politics meets spectacle. If you plan to visit, be prepared to dodge reporters, protesters, and security guards. And maybe accidentally end up in someone's viral TikTok about the resistance. Fish fry fiasco. And just when you thought Trump Tower drama was limited to New York, the Chicago branch said, "Hold my beer." In 2024, an Illinois court ruled that the Trump International Hotel and Tower Chicago was a public nuisance after environmental groups proved its cooling water intake system was sucking in and killing thousands of fish each year from the Chicago River. It also violated state regulations by failing to properly monitor and report water temperatures. The case became a poster child for how luxury real estate can clash with environmental responsibility. Instead of just being a shiny riverside landmark, the tower became a villain in a freshwater horror story. The ruling means the building now has to take corrective action, but the PR damage is already done. It's not every day a skyscraper gets accused of running a mass fish blender, but leave it to Trump Tower to make even its plumbing controversial. And there you have it. What do you think of Trump Tower? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.